All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in to the WTCF podcast. It's Charlie here, and I'm hanging out in the basement and wanted to go ahead and go through this week's intention. And maybe this is something that's been able to help you. So here's last week. A person is not great because they have not failed. A person is great because failure does not stop them. Basically, my thought process for the week is all right, just because we're really good at some things doesn't mean that we're really great because again we might not be challenging ourselves enough to do something really difficult, but a person is great because failure doesn't stop them. I think it really comes down to when we're faced with these different challenges, are we going to cower and turn away from them, or are we going to take these things head on, or are we going to find a way to work around these other issues, to work through them, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought it was really important for myself to, kind of think about some of the things that I've not been my best at and think like, all right, I'm making mistakes here. How do I go ahead and learn from it? And this is what I was kind of able to take away from it in the last week. So hopefully this is something that's good for you. The main points I want to go ahead and talk about was one is to start to build resilience. Now, for myself, I want to be a strong person, whether that be mentally, physically, etc. So I need to be able to introduce myself to environments where that will then be challenged. So I can't go ahead and have my body put on muscle and try to build anything if there's not enough for it to do, right? If I sit around, it's not going to go do it. I need to go do the work. So I like to think of myself as building this resilience within my body so I'll be able to endure a longer span of time. I want to be able to live longer. So that's one of the big reasons that I do this work. But also, it helps a lot of my mental fortitude because then it's all right. Well, if my body is going to be strong, I need to be able to keep my brain going just as strong with it, right? Like if I'm able to get really old and my brain is mush, what kind of life am I going to have on the other side of that then, right? So I think making sure that both of those things, your mental, physical beings, are going to be on their top notch, is really going to be helpful. So I'm going to look at them as, every time I make these mistakes, it's just a stepping stone into the next one. A lot of times I'll talk to people and say, congratulations, you've gone full circle. And basically my thought process on that is when you start something new, usually you're usually really bad at it. And people are going to tell you suck and you shouldn't do it. And then they're going to keep telling you suck and you shouldn't do it. And then you're going to keep doing it because this little voice in your head says this is the right thing for you to do. So you keep doing it because you genuinely enjoy doing this work. Something does it for you and it makes you feel better. So you keep doing it until one day somebody finally says, hey, you're kind of good at this. When did you get good at this? Now you start to think, man, I actually might be pretty good at this. So you keep going and you keep going, and eventually you become an expert and you know like all this stuff about it. And then one day you're met with an idea that had never crossed your mind through this entire process. And you basically have to start the circle all over again. It's like climbing to the top of the mountain to realize there's just another mountaintop above it. And you have to start all over again. So you're not starting at the beginning, you're starting at this level up, but you're giving yourself a really good opportunity to continue to build your way up, right? So to go full circle, to get to the top of the mountain and realize there's another mountain peak, sometimes it's just we embrace our failures, we keep going and we keep pushing forward and knowing that eventually this will cycle over and we'll have another opportunity to do as good as we can. The second note that I like is a willingness to learn. I make so many mistakes throughout my life. I've made so many mistakes. I've screwed up so many different things. And what I think highly of myself is that I want to be willing to learn. I know that I can still be rather stubborn at times, especially when it's hard pressed and like I really feel that I'm right. Um, I get it, but I always want to be able to learn as much as I can. That's why I try to, get myself to write, to read, to do this work, to make sure that I can create something that'll post additional questions, and maybe someone can ask me a question, or I can learn something and ask somebody else, and see if I can get some more education. I think learning more is incredibly important for our lives. The next point I have on here is to be persistent and consistent. So what ends up happening and what I've been coming back to a lot over the last few weeks, as I think about, failing and trying to improve through failure, is there's this Usain Bolt quote who is like, I spent 4 years or 9 years trying to get 2 seconds off my run time. And you think is like, that's really insignificant. Like if I can get 2 seconds off of my run time now, but again, at the elite levels that you're at, um, it's going to get tougher to get marginally better. And I think that's where we start to recognize where that circle will kind of relap. And it's like, man, I've learned everything I could. And then something new pops up and you realize there's a brand new thing. But to get through that, you need to be able to persist and continue to challenge yourself and push these boundaries actively on a regular basis. And that's how we're going to go ahead and learn. Be fearless in your challenges. So to recognize the things that we put off, the things that we procrastinate about, the things that constantly are on our mind and say, hey, I'll get to that later. For whatever reason, those are really important and you shouldn't just ignore those. The idea is that there's some kind of challenge out there and it's going to continue to sit in the back of your mind and continue to tell you things that you may or may not want to hear anymore. But until you actually go out there and start to challenge that fear, even to the smallest degree, again, for myself, it was taking progress photos and being okay with being in front of a camera. Now it's who cares? And again, a lot of people look at it as like, well, who cares? That's nothing. For some people, it can be really, really difficult to step outside of their comfort zones. And kind of recognizing where your comfort zone is an awesome opportunity to then say, hey, well, if I know where the edge is, I know how I can push that edge a little bit further and teach myself a little bit more courage in the process. The next one is to inspire others. So as we continue to work our way through, other people are going to feel challenged and they're going to be beat up and they're going to feel a lot of the same feelings that you have probably felt working through this. And one of the best things that we can go ahead and do is to give them a little bit of inspiration as they work their way through it. You know, they're going to fail, and sometimes just being, you know, supportive or working through them or seeing if you can get them to question what failure is. So in weightlifting, I get to do that all the time where, no, you still got more. And, or I'll walk up and be like, here's your new weights. And I say, I would never present these things to you if I didn't think you can already do it. I think you can't do it. I'm like, I already know what the work is done. All you have to do is get started. So you go and you give them that little bit of a challenge and then bam, suddenly before you know it, they're way stronger than they thought. And then they're thinking, well, man, you know, somebody believed in me. And I think a lot of us will have issue going through our day where that feeling where somebody honestly believes in your ability is few and far between, where someone genuinely cares that your well-being is being served and you're getting better at something and you're challenging and you're doing great things. I think, you know, surrounding yourself with people like that can be incredibly difficult. So when in doubt, start to become that person, right? Be the one that starts to inspire. When you're starting to feel like crazy, who can you help up around you? Because there's probably a bunch of people who have failed all around you and they can use that support. And then just continue to just see the last note on here. It says success amid failure. And I think what I really want to mean in that phrasing is we can find other small successes through the failures that we've had. So the things that we've learned, being willing to learn, being persistent, we can end up finding new ideas and new means of attacking all of these other things. So it could be something along the lines that you're training really hard at something and let's say an injury pops up and you're unable to go. That shouldn't stop you because again, you can go and work with the rest of those people who are there to help inspire them, to help build them up, to show them that you are fearless, you are persistent. Like if these things occur, that's not going to change who you want to become. You're just knowing, hey, this is part of the journey. Failing is part of the journey. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to mess up. It's just, hey, be okay with that. But if I give up, then I'm stuck in that spot forever. I'll never progress any further. And most likely I'll get callous to that idea and thinking, well, I can't because X, Y, Z. So maybe I can end up failing at a bunch of different things, but learn to succeed at something else, right? We find penicillin like that. Like we weren't expecting to find things and we find stuff. So sometimes just keeping an open mind and then searching around can be really, really helpful. And that's all I really have for this week. So hopefully this helps you out a little bit and know that a person, you know, is not great. It's great not because they have words, right? That is such a terrible sentence. So I'm just going to mutter my way through this and then just kind of make fun of myself, of course. Where did this other file go? Because I had it up and I thought about it all week, but the sentence is just structured so fun. 90% sure no one will find this. So if you found this, cool. This is me screwing up in real time and I'm still going to keep going because fuck it, right? A person is not great because they have not failed. A person is great because failure doesn't stop them. Again, I made a mistake right here. couldn't find the quote because I'm onto my new one. But I want to be able to share this as best that I could. And on that note, good luck.